Good morning, everyone. It's Danny Johnson here, and I'm here with my buddy's very pristine 2004 competition orange Mustang Cobra. As you know, this is a very rare car, only 281 of these made, and we had it out here today, and I wanted to talk about a few of the frequently asked questions that you come across with the Mustang Cobras, and just talk about some of them, and hopefully I'll be able to make a few installments of this video, so there'll be more to come. So I want to talk a little bit about the differences in the 2003 Cobra and the 2004 Cobra. And there are a few technical changes, and we'll talk about those, but I want to start off talking about something that might not come to mind at first, and that's the colors. Because 2003 offered a few colors that were not found in 2004, and 2004 had some colors that were not found in 2003. So I'll just talk about which colors were specific to each year. So in 2003, the colors that they offered that you could not get in 2004 were the zinc yellow, satin silver, the dark shadow gray, mineral gray, or sonic blue. So if you're looking for one of those colors, you have to buy a 2003. For 2004, there were a few colors that they only offered in 2004, and that would be like this one you see before you, a competition orange, screaming yellow, and then they also had the mystic chrome, which was the color changing color that you most likely have seen before. So that's something that's kind of interesting that people might not think about when you're talking about differences for 03 and 04. Something else, it would be the antenna. This car has a shorty antenna, but we do have the factory one at home. And the antennas were black at first in 2003, and then they started to change and put silver antennas on, kind of towards the end of 03 and then into 04. From the outside, this keyhole is one of your biggest signs that this is a 2004. It was black in 2003, and then turned silver in 2004. Going inside the car, in the 2004s you'll see a space for a cargo net, but there will not be a cargo net up here. And so 2003s had the cargo net, 2004s did not. What you cannot see right now, but down inside the kick panel on the computer, there will be a different computer code number for 03 versus 04. You'll also notice on the vents up top here, there is no switch to turn them off in 2004. 2003, they did have that option. And just to show you what that switch I'm talking about is it's this piece right here that will close the vent off. One of the other changes from 2003 to 2004 is the radio. And what you'll notice is the button down here at the bottom will say SAT, and this is where you normally would put the change for the CD option. So up top they've moved that button for the CD, and so if you're trying to switch out a radio from 03 to 04, they're not compatible. In fact, the pin count in the back is different, so it won't plug in. So that's another change that they had from 2003 to 2004. And in the trunk, you will have another cargo net in 2003, but not 2004. So we'll talk a little bit about the cylinder heads. So one of the main differences between 2003 and 2004 were the early 2003 Mustangs had 4 threads for the spark plugs on the cylinder heads. Now, it's not true that all 03s had 4 thread, as they started to phase out into the 9 thread heads like the 2004s had, and some of the last Mustangs built in 2003 were the 10th anniversaries. So a lot of the 10th anniversary Cobras came with the 9 thread cylinder heads as well. And that was interesting because the 2 colors I was looking for on my Cobra was either Screaming Yellow or a Torch Red 10th Anniversary. Those were the 2 I wanted. And I already had a Torch Red Mach 1, so I leaned towards Screaming Yellow. And looking back though, I guess I couldn't have gone wrong, because it was likely that the 2003 10th would have had that 9-thread cylinder head anyway. Now, does that make a big difference? You want to be careful about it. You want to make sure that your spark plugs are always tight, because what happens is with only 4 threads, if they start to become loose, as the engine's detonating and then drawing in air, the spark plug, if it's loose, will get knocked down and then sucked back up, knocked down and sucked back up, and eventually it will just go and break through the cylinder head and spit the spark plug out. So it is a concern that Ford addressed. It's not necessarily a huge problem. You just have to, every time you change your oil or rotate your tires, make sure you're checking to make sure those plugs are nice and snug. One other technical difference between the 2003s and 2004s that you wouldn't really see from up top would be the catalytic converters under the car. They made bigger for 2004. One of the questions I frequently get asked when I'm showing under the hood of the car, and my Screaming Yellow Cobra has a bigger expansion tank, and that's probably why. It's a big silver one. But they always say, "What's this right here?" And so this car has a radiator system for the supercharger. So that's the best way to explain it, is just like the car has a radiator in the front for the engine, there's also another one that helps dissipate heat for the supercharger. And so the way that it works is you have your collection of coolant here. It's very similar to the engine coolant, and it will go down and through a front mounted intercooler, or heat exchanger as it's better known. Once the air is cooled, it makes its way back up. There's a little pump in the fender, the passenger side fender, that's pumping it, and so that coolant will come back up here and go underneath the supercharger into the intercooler. Okay, so once it passes through the intercooler, and that's helping cool the air that's being compressed in by the supercharger, once it goes through the intercooler, it comes back out the front here and then back into the expansion tank. So it's kind of a circular process going through the whole front of the car for cooling, back up underneath the supercharger, and then back out into the expansion tank again. The relay for this is found over here under this little box there, and I have other videos on how to test that intercooler pump and to also change the intercooler pump, as they tend to go out about 40,000 miles. What usually happens is they build up from soot from the turbines in the inside just wearing out over time, and then that will clog them and they'll stop working, and if you bang on them they'll kind of work again, but it's intermittent and eventually they'll fail. So some people will test the intercooler pump and find that oh yeah, it's working, it's fine, but then 5 minutes later driving down the road and it doesn't work, and next thing they know the expansion tank is overheating and bubbling, and you got all sorts of problems. So if your Cobra has anywhere near 40,000 miles on it, I'd change that intercooler pump. Once again, you'll find that video among my other videos. One thing that's worth mentioning about the engine bay on all Cobras, and even going into the Mach 1 and Bullet, is that they actually clear coated the inside of the engine bay. And I don't know if that's because they assumed that these engines would be shown off a lot more at car shows, or what the reasoning was, but they clear coated the engine bay as well, so it's nice and shiny as you look at the paint. I've had other cars like a GT and noticed that it's very foggy and faint, as they didn't do that, so it is a noticeable difference if you're looking close to detail. And very common that you may already know is that it has the plaque showing the two engineers who built the engine by hand. And the interesting thing about the 03 and 04 Cobras is that these engines were a little different than the 99 and 01 Cobra hand-built engines, that a team of two followed the engine from start to finish until the engine was completed. So there were a few different processes before that. There's A, B, and C different lines within the SVT production line for the engine, and it was important that they wanted the entire engine to be completely followed from start to finish by the same two engineers. So that's what's also a little different by the 03 and 04 Cobras.